Welcome, guys, to the Champion Blueprint podcast. I have Daniel Parker with me. He is on the sales team with Mathews, and we're going to talk about the new Mathews bows that just came out, the hunting bows, the target bows, everything Mathews. So, Dan,
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me, Ace. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new product talk. Obviously, we launched a new or continued the lift series, but then added the long draw and the short draw model. So we're pretty excited about it. It's been out for uh, on Thursday. It'll be 1 month since we launched. So it's been a great year already, and hoping things continue as they are.
exactly. So, you've got the Lift X, the RS, which is the short draw bow, and then you have the XD, which is the long draw option.
Right.
Um, and I feel like, at least in the target world, one of the people that probably had something to do with that might have been Tim Gillingham, maybe. But
He's got some influence here and there. He probably had more influence on
yeah,
the Title 40 than the XD because we had the Atlas for a couple of years, which I mean,
sure.
there's some people with some long arms that it's a niche bow, and it did well for us the past couple of years. So we just updated it with the Lift series, and it's been doing great. But yeah, I know Tim shot that this past fall, and I think he took down a couple animals with it.
Exactly. So with the just curious, because I haven't actually held one of the XDs, but what is the ATA on that? And are the cams the same size or are they like massive cams?
It's a 33-inch axle to axle, so it's the same as the Lift X33. But the cams, they're the SWX plus, so they are larger. Um,
Awesome.
they will accommodate draw lengths 32 and a half down to, I'm sorry, 33 and a half down to 32. So it's a short draw length range, but if you're shorter than 32 inches, then you fit right into the Lift X33 because that peaks out at 31 and a half inch draw length.
Okay.
So
Does anyone actually like does any manufacturer make a bow that goes to 33 and a half inches? I've never heard of that.
you know, I think this past year, I think there was one manufacturer that did expand into that market as well. I don't quote me on what their longest draw length is for it, but I think a couple other manufacturers caught on, and they're trying to take a piece of that pie as well. But I mean, the archery industry is growing, so if we have archers that are shooting that draw length, then let's keep it going.
Exactly. Good stuff. So, what's the biggest thing about the new lift and the target bows that everyone's kind of going crazy about right now?
So the two things that people have been asking for the past couple of years is they wanted a Mathews that they could tune without a press, and they wanted different grips. That was the biggest gripe. I have gone to the ASAs the past few years, and some pack shoots and other events, and finally we brought those two things to market. So now we have the limb shift technology in the entire title lineup. So we got the 34, 36, 38, and the 40. And then the Lift series, you got the Lift RS, the 29.5, the 33, and the XD. They all have the limb shift technology. So no press needed anymore. There's no more top hats. You can do it at home just with an Allen wrench. Don't need any special tools, and just take care of it all right there in the same spot.
Right on. And then with the grip system, how does that work?
So any bow that has the Engage grip, which started in November of 2018, so it would have been the Verdicts. That was the first bow that we launched the Engage grip on. We now have the Bond series grips. So we have the Engage, and they all have an over mold as well. So there's green, there's tan, there's gray, and there's white. So it's a different texture, different feel on the back of the grip. So it's completely different than the original Engage grip. Same angle, but the feel is way nicer, way more comfortable. So there's the Engage grip. Then there's a Contour, which a little bit wider. It has some curvature to it underneath, like your pointer and your thumb. So again, you can, it's like contoured to your hand. That one's also at a 14-degree angle, like the engage grip. And then lastly, we have the taper. A little bit wider, a little bit smaller radiuses on the back. So it's like almost more of a flat grip, and that's a 17-degree grip. So all three, the engage, the contour, and the taper, will fit any bow that had the engage grip system on it. So,
Solid. So with this limb shift, um, I've used it personally and it's insane. If you a lot of people like maybe you're brand new at archery and stuff, if you're like, trying to paper tune your rest, you know, your bow, a lot of times you're just going to move your rest. That's kind of
mm,
old school. I just
yeah,
like to set it at center shot and use, top hats.
right.
But with top hats, it's like you have to have a press and a ton of time, and you have to be very careful. You have to, take the cables and string off, let the limbs out so you don't snap your finger off. Take your axle out, drop the cam. Well, you can keep your strings and cables on one
Yeah,
side of the bow.
yeah, you can keep
Just,
those.
but drop that cam, swap the top hats, put them in, put the bow back together, and then just go back to the paper tuner and see, okay, did anything change? And sometimes you have to swap the top hats, a couple times just to get your tune right. So with limb shift, you can set your rest center shot and you can literally just take the little screw off the end and then
Yep,
there's an Allen hole there and it has directions on it, it has a left tear and right tear. You just
right.
twist that
Yep,
and a quarter turn, if you're like right where you need to be, a quarter turn can go from a left tear to a right tear. So it's very sensitive. So, do you have any comments on the process like that you've noticed like on tuning it?
well, you can do it on top and bottom. So if you really need to fine tune it, you can just adjust one if needed. But each scribed line that's on the limb tip itself, because the limb shift is only going to move one limb. So the cam itself is fixed to the shelf side of the bow, the non-mod side. The mod side limb is what's going to be moving in and out further or closer to the cam, and that's what's going to change your leans, obviously. So there's the scribe lines that are on that piece is going to equal what one top hat size used to be. So you have a full top hat range essentially, and then or less, because you can do like you were just saying, like those micro turns, just a little bit, just eighth of a turn, fourth of a turn, and really hone in on getting that perfect bullet hole. Because we did have some people, they would say, "Oh man, I wish you guys had top hats that were like in between what I have right now." And
Yes.
this is now more than that. It's an insane range of adjustability that is definitely easier than what the top hats were. So
Exactly. So as far as like, a bow hunter, that's going to be huge. Potentially like doing a broadhead tune. Could you use the limb shift for doing that?
yeah, yep, you can obviously. I'd be focused on how much you're moving because that's going to be pretty minuscule movements. And I'm like you. I prefer not to move my rest at all. I like to
Yeah,
put it in center shot. Right around 13/16 is where we recommend, and then adjust cams from there, adjust the lean to get that tune right. So, but absolutely, yeah, yeah. Hunters using fixed broadheads, 100%. That's what it's for. So,
exactly. So like if you're doing a broadhead tune or you're doing like a bear shaft tune with your target setup, like I think of the limb shift as a macro adjustment, super sensitive to a bear shaft. So if you're, a little off, you can just make a tiny small tweak, eighth of a turn after a
mm-hmm.
paper tear test. And
Yep,
then from there, just maybe move your rest a very small amount, like less than a 16th on either side, and then you should be good. If you can't do that, then there's a problem. You know what I'm
right.
saying? But
Yeah, yeah.
with
You
the
got
arrow,
something else.
probably.
Yeah, probably a spine
Yeah.
issue at that point.
Yeah. It's insane. Like I've also noticed this. A lot of people, this is very important. So a lot of people, they they shoot a bow that doesn't have a wide range of tuning adjustability, or they're very torquey. And I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed from shooting certain bows that if a bow is very torque sensitive within the cam system, it can change your paper tear. So, what if you could shoot a bow that doesn't have hardly any torque at all? So it's going to shoot really straight no matter how you really hold the grip. And you could shoot pretty much any spine arrow you want. Yeah, like seriously, this slim shift technology, like I'm shooting, for my indoor setup, aluminums, they're really stiff. I literally, it doesn't matter. I could probably put a 500 spine arrow in just to see. It would probably be pretty crappy, but I could adjust it and make it work. So it's really cool how adjustable it is.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's made to accommodate, majority of proper or all proper setups. Yeah, it can take care of that. So it's exciting. It's exciting. I know the engineers took some time working on that and getting it right. So yeah, like I said, we're super excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So one other thing I wanted to touch on. So as far as the target side, there is a new title with this technology on it. There is a 40-inch bow, 38, 36, and a 34 axle to axle. And then there's the switch weight. So on all the bows. So
Yeah.
tell me about how that works and whatnot.
So the switch weight modules, um, it's just like modules that would go on any bow. Two screws, top and bottom, and you can adjust for the titles in particular. The draw weight range from 50 pounds all the way up to 70 pounds in 5 pound increments. And again, just two screws, top and bottom. It's an Allen wrench. You don't need any special tools. You can do it on your table at home. But I can make a title 36 be 50 pounds, 55, 60, 65, 70 pounds. And I can also make it have 80% let off, 75% let off, or 70% let off just by changing that module. So I can control draw length, draw weight, and let off with the module itself. And that's, again, two screws, top and bottom, swap it out, done. Simple as that. So,
Okay, so that's huge. So if you're like a bow hunter and you're like getting into tack shoots and stuff like that, let's just say you're hunting with, 70, 65 pounds, you could drop down to 55, 60 pounds and just, maybe you have a second sight or you just want to resight in the same sight. Boom, there you
yep.
go.
Yeah. One thing with the
So,
switch weight mods too that this is hunting and target. If you hurt your shoulder, anybody hurts their shoulder and they had a 70-pound bow, you know, typically your draw weight range on a 70-pound bow is 10 pounds, 12 pounds, so you can get it down to 58ish pounds. Well, if that's still too much for somebody who hurt their shoulder and you're looking to buy new limbs, limbs, if they're available from another manufacturer, which I think majority of them 4 or 5ish years, they typically stop making limbs for certain models. Um, they're going to cost you $200+ these
yes,
modules. These modules retail for $60. So now, if I hurt my shoulder, I can go buy a 55-pound mod for my lift, take out the 70-pound one, and I'm back in the game. I don't
exactly.
have you know that's something that I can do. Like I can go online and buy the mods. Limbs you can't buy online unless they're used, which that gets a little dicey. So there's no downtime essentially. You can just swap it out at home.
Exactly. And you don't have to have a bow press to do that. I mean,
Right.
the mods, you just take two screws, take them out, put them in, and you're good
Yep.
to go. And one of the most impressive things I found with that from my personal observation
Mm-hmm.
is um the if you swap them out, the cam timing stays very consistent, especially if it's the same poundage. If it's like a different poundage, it might be like within a half twist. It's
Right.
like super
Yeah,
small.
it should be pretty much
So
spot on. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me and just I since I target shoot a little bit, I'm always checking timing on my bow. Doesn't matter. Like I just that's just something that was ingrained in me since I started archery 15 plus years ago. So
exactly.
um, yeah, I just think it's always good to keep an eye on your timing, regardless of what's going on, just mid season, before season, post season, whatever. So, but yeah, changing the mods, it shouldn't change your timing. One thing that you do need to check on, if you change the poundage and obviously draw length, if it's a significant difference, um, if you have a cable driven drop away rest, um, you will need to check your timing on that
Yes.
because with a heavier poundage mod, you're taking up more cable. So that cable travel is going to be more. So might need to pay attention to any cable driven rest. Um, Super easy to do, obviously, but just one thing to keep in mind. So,
Yeah. Easy enough. So checking that in a draw board or having a buddy kind of eyeball it while you draw the bow back. It's
right,
not a bad
right.
idea.
QAD is awesome. I know we have the Mathews IMX, but they have those two white lines that line up at the end
Yes.
of your draw cycle. So that is a phenomenal little tool. Just double check that your rest timing is perfect.
Exactly. Solid. So um awesome. So I guess that's pretty much the reason why you should shoot a Mathews at that point. I think the bows shoot phenomenal. One of the things I've noticed personally since I started shooting them on the target side is the wall stiffness, like the way the back wall feels,
Sure.
is perfect. So I feel like a lot of bows for a while, maybe 5 years ago, everyone was competing for a super hard back wall, and people have been able to do it. And there's a point where you make the back wall so hard that I think it hurts your shooting. But I think
Sure.
you guys have got like just the right amount of stiffness. It's like it's not too soft and it's not too stiff. You can pull into it and then it kind of just stops, but you get
Right.
that feedback. So
Right. Yeah, and obviously, again, this is a perfect example for the switch weight mods because if you feel like that cable tension, so like your back wall is a little too spongy, you can increase that draw weight with your switch weight mod. If you just had a 60-pound bow maxed out, you couldn't really adjust that too much. So yeah, depending on the feel, you can change the let off, you can change the draw weight to really get that back wall feel that you're looking for.
right on. So one of the last things that I would like to touch on as far as the title is concerned, I've played with that little weight on the front, and it's like I don't know how heavy it is, maybe 8 ounces, six
It's yep,
ounces, something
just
like
a
that.
smidgen under 8 ounces. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I personally take it off so I can put more weight on my front bar. But
sure. Yep,
I've noticed when you take that weight off, the riser is insanely light for the
right.
size of the riser.
It is.
So a lot of people, if you pick up Expo, um, a lot of risers are not as long, and if they are long, they're heavy. The Mathews, it's got probably the best length to weight ratio that I've noticed. Um, which,
Yeah,
a longer riser is going to hold better. You're not going
right.
to lean it as much.
Yep,
Um, and light means you can, put weights on your bars and that sort of thing. So,
exactly.
but yeah,
Like that anchor weight, the brass weight. Um, we purposely made that removable because I think I personally I leave mine on. I have mine on. I shoot well with it, but yeah, we want people to personalize their bow. So we gave them the option: leave it on, take it off, whatever's
I'll
gonna
probably
make.
put it on my bow. I'll probably put it on, like in shoot off situations. Like honestly, it kind of helps with the pin float.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Um,
George Riles.
but
I
yeah,
watched one of his videos from a couple of years ago. I don't know what he called it, but it's like he always said to carry like an extra ounce or a couple ounces in your pocket and shoot off comes. You got a few extra nerves, Spread
Exactly.
bounces onto your bow. And he would always say to put it on the riser because he didn't want to change, your stabilizer, your weights, the ratio on that. But
If
yeah,
you're
I mean,
shaking, like I've noticed that, like if you put that weight on, um, your bow balance still feels the same. It it's just right under the grip. So it basically makes it to where your perceived float in your sight picture is less.
right.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like it's just like hanging a plumb, like in terms of carpenter terms. You hang a string with the weight at the bottom. So like if the weight's below your hand, the bow is going to want to sit perfectly vertical. So
exactly.
it's just putting that weight below center of gravity.
Right. Right on. So yeah. Tell me about this new Mathews and Ultraview site.
Oh man, that's been a fun project. I didn't really have any input really, but I got to see the progress of it and what's been done to it. And the thing that was most intriguing to me about that was how much one of the engineers in particular spent on fiber optic. And it's like I would go into his office and he'd have his light dimmed down and he'd have different brands of fiber optic, different lengths, and like some of them were covered with tubes, some of them were just sitting open on his desk, but they would all go into this one like contraption molded piece at the end, and which essentially was like your pin. So like you could see the ends of the fiber sticking out right here, but he was seeing the brightness of the fiber optic itself, and it seemed like I don't know for months he was just testing different diameters, different brands, the quality of the fiber optic itself. And like, if you covered it in this spot, would it change the brightness? If you covered, you know, whatever, just a lot of testing that he did on the fiber optic was pretty interesting, pretty cool to see. So I think they ended up putting 15 thousandths fiber in there to their original Bridg-lock site. I think it was
That's
19
that's
thousandths.
awesome.
People wanted the 15 thousandths is a popular size right now, so that's what we ended
Yeah, I
with.
think that comes from the target world. I feel like 10 is really small for the average, like the normal everyday. Like if you just took a consensus, it would probably peak in the target world around 15, I would say.
Right,
So, but if it's really bright in a hunting site, I think it'd be perfect.
right, right.
It's
Yeah.
really
So like,
cool.
there's that site's insanely light. There's an integrated light that has a rechargeable light on it, a couple different settings. So yeah, it's pretty insane what they continued the from the original UV slider. They just took that base and made it significantly better, in my opinion. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
So a couple more things I want us to touch on. So, Bridg-lock stabilizers. Tell me about them.
yeah. So those came out a couple of years ago. We have the Target ones, carbon, and then we have the aluminum ones. We just added a 15-inch bar. So for the aluminum, we have 8, 10, 12, and 15-inch aluminum Bridg-lock stabilizers. So if you've had a chance to look at them, they all have they have the notches in them, and they slide in and out of the riser of our bows.
Yes.
So one cool feature is like people are like, well, what's the point of this? Why are they so expensive? And it's like, to be honest, you have a quick release and you have a super adjustable stabilizer all in one. So because it's a thumb screw on the side of the riser, you can remove your stabilizer when you put it in your case. But then you also have the adjustability of it. Like if you buy an 8-inch stabilizer, you have to thread it into your bow, and that's what you have. When you buy this, you can mess with your weights, mess with your lengths, and adjust that stabilizer in a half inch, out a half inch, and do the same thing with your back bar if you have a back bar. But you can see your groups change, mess with your stabilizers. Obviously, target archers, you guys are constantly, maybe not constantly, but it is a huge, thing that you guys are messing with your weights, the lengths, the angle of the bars. This is just something that all hunters and obviously target archers now too. You can just adjust that stabilizer in and out. It's all built into one, so that 8-inch stabilizer can go down to like 4 inches if you wanted. Um, so I tell people at tack shoots and ASA shoots, go shoot a group at 50 yards, move that stabilizer in a half inch, in an inch, whatever, go shoot again. See if your group changes, add a weight, which the weight feature, I don't know if you've had a chance to mess with that much, but it's just
Yes.
one screw
Pretty crazy.
underneath and you can just pop those on and off and then put the cap back on, put that set screw back in place. And yeah, it essentially, I mean, it can hold more weights than anybody would ever put on their bow. But yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about thread rod, but a lot of adjustability. It's super easy to use. And it's just something that you can really fine tune your groups with. So hunters and target archers.
I think one of the cool things for the hunting side, like just portability, you can slide them in when you're done shooting and put your
Yep.
bow away. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I did shoot one the other day just to try it, and I just had a front bar. I really wish I had the back bar bracket, which I
Sure.
think is manufactured by Mathews. Um, you can slide that bar in and out of that bracket, so
Right.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I would really want to play with that. Um, the only thing I wish I could play with, and this is something that might happen in the future, but I wish you could adjust the angle on the front.
Sure.
I personally run a down degree on the front of my
Right.
bars.
Yeah.
But one thing that could happen, also that would probably mitigate the need for a down angle is just having another Bridg-lock hole lower in the bow.
Right.
I think that would be really freaking cool. Like imagine like you can get the front bar weights on a target rig in line with the weights on the back bar. That basically makes it a down degree. It'll
Right.
feel
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Yep.
So
I
I
think
would
that'd
want to
be,
try that.
yeah, that'd be kind of a cool idea. I like that. I like that. So,
Run with it. I think that would be awesome. I personally would probably be running them if that was an option on the front.
right.
But the back bar adjustability is like none other. Um,
Right.
I play with back bar lengths all the time. Um,
Okay.
currently I'm running a 15-inch off the back on my target rig. I've got like 26 ounces, 25 ounces
Sure.
on the back. I've got like 11 on the front of a 30-inch bar.
Sure.
Um, and I try to get the weights level with each other. I
I
feel like it
gotcha.
floats really well that way. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
gotcha.
I've tried 10 inches, I've tried 12. A lot of guys that shoot Mathews on the target side, like Levi Morgan, for example, like he runs out, I think he runs a 15 maybe, but he runs, 20 plus ounces of weight on the back and then however much
Yeah.
on the front he wants.
Yep.
So Dan runs V bars, he's running Bridg-lock system. Um,
Yeah.
do they have white end caps too?
Yes. Yep. So there's white or
That's so
black
cool.
for the carbon bars. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool.
And
I
then
would definitely get the white ones.
there's the black weights and there's brass weights too. So 1 ounce
Yeah, the
chunk
brass for sure.
or 3 ounce. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so think about this. We tried to make limbs faster when we had single limb bows, and then we removed the center to make split limb bows. Now we're removing the center again on the
Mm-hmm.
split limbs. So it's a split limb bow.
Right.
With that rubber gasket in between the limbs. The limbs are wider.
Yep.
Um, I think that's just amazing. One of the things as far as like hunting, obviously, you're going to want to have no vibration and a very quiet bow. And I think that helps with Mathews, and we'll get into some other things about why they're so quiet. But as far as the target side, I've shot bows that have some vibration, and I feel like it kind of distracts you, like when the shot's going off. So with my Mathews, I shot this weekend. I shot pretty good at this tournament. Shot a 688 at the Bluegrass Open. Um,
Congrats.
appreciate it, man. I dropped two X's on the Vegas round and cleaned the other game, but
That's
I
impressive.
really wanted to shoot a 690.
Was that your first
Sucked,
tournament with
but
Mathews?
it was my second tournament. My first one I shot 59X 5 spot, and then I shot a 26X. But
Okay.
I played with the knock height, and that sort of thing. I moved my knock height up from where it was. Um, stabilization, draw length. I've played with several different mods and let offs. I'm shooting 60 pound, 75% let off for indoors, and that mod is my favorite. It's just I feel like a lot of people want to go crazy with the holding weight. I'm not a crazy holding weight kind of guy, and under pressure, it's very predictable, very calm. So, but
Nice.
anyway, as far as how that bow shoots under pressure compared to a bow with more vibration, one of the skills that's kind of hard for me is seeing the arrow hit the middle because it's vibrating so much. It's like your body is like shocked and you kind of blink and can't really see what happened. With the Mathews, I've noticed under pressure, I can execute a shot, and when the shot goes off and the bow cycles, I can literally, because the bow has no vibration, I'm not distracted, I can see the arrow like hit the middle. It's incredible. Um, you're you will not, and I can almost guarantee this. If someone did a test, all Mathews bows vibrate and are more quieter than any other bow on the market,
Yeah, I
especially the
know something that,
vibration.
yeah, that's definitely something we take pride in. So, um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Lastly, I asked you about this before we got on the call, and I really didn't know about this, and I think it would be a very valuable thing for people to understand. You are the sales rep for Match Strings. So
Yep.
tell us about Match, the unique features of Match, and why Match?
Yeah. So Mash was developed for the Lift in title series that started last year. So there was a lot of R&D that went into that, but what it comes down to is like now we have a string that is essentially a machined piece because the strings and cables they're made on one machine and they are programmed. You think of like any aluminum like part, the cam, the riser, the mod, like that's it's a machine piece. Well, essentially the strings are now that because we fabricated our own machines, own programs, and each piece, each yoke, cable, string is going to be made to the same super tight tolerances across the board from day to day, week to week and year to year. It's insane how much time they put into that as well. So in the video that we launched a couple of years ago, they did what was the flag test. What they did was they applied more and less tension to the string itself, and they had vertical pieces of tape. And when you applied more weight, more tension to it, you could see like if it was twisted wrong, you could see the flags do this. But if it
Yes.
had the right twist ratio, those flags are motionless. You might see a little bit of slight movement, but they're essentially motionless. So the twist ratio, the serving tension, the actual weight that it's served under and pulled, all that comes into play. Like there's some manufacturers out there, some secondary string manufacturers that do a phenomenal job, but I think there's not many that can really make a premium string, and I'm confident that Match is a premium string, especially for a Mathews bow, because we only put Match strings on Mathews bows. We don't make we zebra strings can go on aftermarket bows, like we'll make them for other manufacturers, but Match strings are only going to be on a switch weight model Mathews bow. So we're confident that's going to be the best performance possible. One thing that I know that we touched on before is the end loops. This was zebra strings
Yes.
and now Match strings. We do not serve end loops Um, though it is aesthetically pleasing, looks good. Um, there really isn't enough benefit to having a served end loop as there is not serving it. So like if you don't have a served end loop, you can micro tune your timing by rolling that end loop. So if you have a served end loop and the half twist is too much, you're kind of stuck. You're essentially going to have to go buy, something else to help or stick a little piece of D loop in your cable to get that timing correct. Versus an unserved end loop, you can just roll that a little bit and you can really hone in on that perfect timing spot that you prefer.
Yes. And the question I had for you earlier was, well, is that going to unroll itself as you shoot it? And it's not because it's under constant tension.
Yeah, and it's a lot of pressure that those are under too. So like we had mentioned before, like the tensile strength, for one strand of the BCY 452 extra is around 90 pounds. There's 24 strands. So that's, almost 2,000 pounds worth of tension that they can withstand. So there is an insane amount of force that it would take to break an end loop. And the end serving itself, the end loop serving, if your strings and cables do have that, they don't add tensile strength to the string or cable itself. Again, it's mostly for looks. Um, but
Right. I've had cams where you have that in loop serving and it'll actually like as you shoot it, it'll mold and it'll kind of like take a shape and then it'll potentially cut if you have a burr on your cam. So
right,
with this in loop serving not being there, um do you think it would have a problem if there was a burr on a cam or something like that?
I mean, if there's a burr on a cam, it's gonna cut whatever it's touching, whether it be your serving or the string itself. So like, it doesn't matter what's there.
Sure.
Obviously, for everyone's sake, I hope there isn't a burr on there. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it does happen if you drop your cam or if it, falls in the rocks or something like that. It happens, unfortunately. But yeah, that burr isn't going to care what it's touching. It's going to fray it regardless. And so it doesn't matter if your serving is frayed right there or if the string itself is frayed. You're going to want to replace it. Is what it comes down to.
Exactly.
So
Very fair. So one last thing about that, with the match, couple things I've noticed. So, um, they all look exactly the same. Like you could go order, you can actually order just a string, just a cable, and just a yoke. It'll come in a little package like Knox. Um, I love the convenience of that. You're going to get them very quickly when you order them. You don't have to wait forever.
yep,
Um, you're going to expect the exact same thing. Their tolerances are awesome.
yeah,
But as far as, the ABS and the cables not having in-serving, I feel like when it rounds around the cam, like when you draw it, there's not going to be like some sort of inhibited gap there that the serving would have. So I feel like it molds better to the cam, which
right.
could potentially increase the speed and efficiency of the cam. I'm not sure if it
Yeah,
does or not, just a hypothesis, but
right. Not sure on that. But one thing that you had just mentioned that I didn't touch on is not having it served. It the string material itself will form to that surface that it's against. So it flattens out, if you will, and it creates a higher surface area that it's in contact with. Because if it's a tube like this and it's sitting on a groove, it's like a tangent essentially. But if it's not served, that string or cable can flatten out a little bit more and ride in that groove, and just have a higher surface area.
that
Um,
does make sense. I've noticed that it does mold um to the peg the cable is on. Now as far as the ABS, maybe I haven't noticed that. It probably has. It's kind of set in those grooves a bit
yep.
more, but I'd have to take a look. So, but Excellent
Yeah.
stuff. So you go to the ASA events with the truck?
Yep. Yep. So the past 2 years, I've been to all but one. I missed Camp Minden 2 years ago. But yeah, I get to drive the booth, all the ASAs, handful attack shoots, and like other expos as well, like Western Hunt Expo. Um, did the I didn't go to the SCI, but we go to the SCI. So I do a lot of the event stuff, and it's a ton of fun. A lot of road time, but I enjoy it.
Right on. So, um, where can people find you particularly on social media?
I'm just on Facebook. That's it. I'm kind of a low
Okay.
key kind of guy. But if you're ever
Fair
at a
enough.
task shoot or if you're at one of the ASAs, there's a very good chance that I will be there. So usually have a crew of 3 or 4 other guys that are with. And yeah, if you have any questions or want to try out the bows, that's my job. We'll get you set up. We have all of the mods available at those events too. So like one thing that we really strive for is a lot of pro shops don't stock target bows. So, and even when it comes to hunting bows, not every shop has the ability to stock all of the mods. So, we want people to try out the bows at the correct drawing, the correct draw weight, and the correct.
Exactly.
So, if you're ever at one of those events that we're at, we'll be glad to help you out and get you set up for the perfect fit.
Exactly. I would do that because man, I wish I could do that. Um it takes a lot to really get the draw length dialed with any bow. But being able to do that at an event, you get to try out all the risers, you get to try out all of the poundages and figure out, okay, do I like 60 pounds 70% better? Do I like 65 pounds 75% better? Do I like it better on J? Do I like it better on I? Whatever your mod number is or letter. It's pretty freaking awesome to be able to do that. And you can see, oh, I don't like this mod. So instead of ordering it and having to return it, you
Right,
just try it out.
right.
So
Yep. We try to have all the color options there too, and we have lefties. We have a lefty of every single bow. So yeah, we try to give everybody the opportunity to try out their dream bow.
awesome, man. Daniel, I appreciate your time. You've been awesome. And I'll see you at some of the ASAs. Will you guys be traveling to, I mean, obviously Lancaster and Vegas and indoor nationals,
Um,
maybe?
so we will send a display to Lancaster. I will be most likely. I will be at Vegas, um, and then the next stop for me after that. I'm sorry, Vegas is now in March. Vegas is the first weekend of March.
Yes.
So my first event is probably going to be the Western Hunt Expo, and then Foley, I think, is event number 2. So I'll probably see you at Foley.
Yep. That'd be awesome, man. Well,
Perfect.
it's been an excellent chat, man. And it's been an awesome podcast. And we will get some cool updates this year on the bows. So,
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, Ace. I appreciate it. And welcome to Team Mathews as well. And congrats on your first 2 tournaments, too. You shot pretty dang good. So looking forward
thank
to
you,
the
man.
rest of it.
All right. All right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one.